this week's vlog. So obviously it's a different vlog because I am at home and this video has actually been requested. So I put up on my Instagram probably around a week ago now, asking you guys what vlogs you would like to see, and I have had lots of requests on different videos which I am actually going to be able to do. So you guys will see some of the vlogs that you have requested coming up in the next few weeks / months. And one of the requests was if you guys watched my update vlog, which was probably around a month ago now, I mentioned about my pony Mittens. Now you guys don't know anything about her, about being some bad news, and somebody put on the questions on my Instagram to tell you guys what actually happened, because I did say that I would tell you guys. I just wasn't sure when, because I needed to find out some more things which I now know, so I'm able to share with you guys. So before I tell you guys the bad news about Mittens, I thought I'd give you all a little bit of a debrief about her, because obviously you guys know nothing about her. So Mittens is a 13-2, 13-3 purebred New Forest, and I actually got Mittens when I was 9 years old. But before I got Mittens, I had a pony called Holly, who was actually only 12-2. She sadly broke her neck in the field. And the lady that we bought Holly off of used to give me lessons, and I used to be in the pony club that she would teach. So she followed mine and Holly's journey from the very start. Now, when Holly broke her neck, we obviously told Debbie, and Debbie was like to us, look, she has 2 ponies that I can go up and help her ride, etc. So we was like, yes, we will come up. So she had a 12-2 pony called Rusty, who she actually got down at the Grange, which you guys will have known. I done a vlog. It was around this time last year with the pony club with Michael Van Hooven. When my mum and I went to go and see both of these ponies at Debbie's, we kind of preferred Mittens over Rusty. No offence to Rusty, but Mittens was just more our type. But we thought Rusty, and so did Debbie, would be more of a suitable pony for me. Now, Debbie knew that I was a nervous rider, so she wanted to make sure that Rusty was safe, so that when I got on him, we didn't have to worry. So Debbie got on Rusty, and they didn't even get out on the gate, and a white van drove up past and Rusty went crazy, and Debbie was like, look, Millie cannot ride him, he's not safe. So my only other option was Mittens. So I then started to ride Mittens, and for quite a few weeks all I was doing with Mittens was just walking. My mum and I just took it because I was nervous. Debbie was just taking it steady with me, because obviously coming off of a 12-2 and going on to like a 13-2, it is quite a jump. So we continued doing that, and then I started to trot, and we didn't realise actually how green Mittens was. So moving on, after quite a few weeks, it was actually just after Christmas, Debbie said to my mum that she would tie a ribbon round Mittens. And my mum didn't get it, and she was like, look, it's not cryptic, I will tie a ribbon round Mittens. So basically what Debbie was saying is that she was going to give Mittens to us. Now, I didn't have a clue about this. My dad would work with rescue ponies, so he would move them all over the place, and I used to go with him like in half term and weekends and things. So my dad said to me that he was going to pick up some horses up at Exeter, because Mittens was based in Latford, which isn't too far from Exeter, and I was like, yeah, I'll come. And on our way, we wasn't far from Mittens, he was like, shall we go up and see Mittens? And of course I said yes. So I went to see Mittens, and Debbie gave me a head collar. And at this time my dad was actually turning his trailer around. I was just thinking it's because we was getting ready to go. And Debbie looks up and says to me, well, put a head collar on then. And I was like, what? And she was like, put the head collar on. And I didn't get it because obviously I didn't understand why I need to put a head collar on. And she said, you're taking her home, Millie. I just burst into tears. I literally could not believe it. So when it got to me taking Mittens home, Mittens had never been in like a trailer with a partition or anything, because all Mittens done with Debbie, she was just a brood mare, and before Debbie had her, she was up at the New Forest. So she comes straight from the New Forest to Debbie's in a herd, and they were basically shoved onto a lorry. Now, Mittens had quite a lot of trust issues, and it took a long time for Debbie to work with her, etc. So Debbie did actually name Mittens, and the reason why Mittens is called Mittens is because it took Debbie around 6 months to actually get near Mittens and have a head collar and everything. So it was almost like handling something with mittens. So Debbie and my dad took the partition out in the trailer and we loaded Mittens up, and she was so good. She literally loaded first time, was perfect. Now when my dad and I was driving back to take Mittens home, we drove 5 miles per hour from the minute we left Debbie's to the minute we got home. So as you can imagine, it took us a very long time to get home, but we wanted to make sure that Mittens was going to have a safe, gentle journey home so that it didn't make her scared for the next time we took her out. So we got her back, and my dad done some desensitizing work on her. Now my dad was into like his horsemanship and into groundwork, and followed like Monty Roberts, Buck Brannaman and people like that basically, and he would work with horses with problems and breaking in and stuff like that. So he knew everything what to do with how Mittens was, if that makes sense. So it was the 30th December when I got her, so we were right in the middle of winter. We didn't have a sand school or anything, we only had a field, so it was rather muddy. So we would just take it slowly with her, and also because obviously I was nervous, etc. So unexpectedly, sadly, my dad passed away, so we stopped doing everything with the horses really. Obviously we was continuing looking after him and that, but I didn't bother to ride. So it come into 2017, it was around April, May time, we decided that Mittens needed to go off and be schooled properly, because my mum didn't really have a clue in that sense like my dad did, and obviously I was only coming up 10, I would have been then. So we sent her out to Winkley to be schooled and get some more education. Mittens was there about a year, and in that time I loaned a pony called Minnie, who was down at Winkley, so I would see Mittens and things like that. I just wouldn't really ride her, I'd only ride her occasionally. So obviously a year went on and I outgrew Minnie because she was only 12 too, so we felt that I was ready enough to get on Mittens, so that's what we done. So I started riding Mittens down at Winkley, but Winkley was a bit too far for us to go. So we decided to move Mittens closer to us, which was actually like 5 minutes away from school. So it was really easy before and after school. And I done a little bit of everything with her. I took her on her first fun ride. I done a dressage test on her. I would take her out hacking most days with the people on livery, and I also done some showing shows with her. And I think that was about it what I done with her. And then unfortunately I was picked up from school, and me and my friend was going to take Mittens in the school and ride her, and as I was leading her to the stables, she was lame. On the same day we had the farrier, so We thought maybe he pricked her or put the shoe on too tight or something like that, so we just brought her into the stable because basically we was never there when Mittens had her feet done, because where we was on livery, he was with the person that owned the yard basically, so he would just do Mittens and then put her straight out in the field, and it worked for us and it obviously worked for him. So when we brought Mittens in and we saw that she was lame, we called the farrier and was like, have you pinched her or, you know, tightened the shoe or something like that? And he looked up and said, no, she has done a check ligament. You can either chuck her out in the field and see if it sorts herself out or call a vet. Obviously, we called the vet straight away. The vet then came out and said that it was a check ligament and that she would be on box rest for a month. Now, to us, a month felt like forever, but obviously there was nothing we could do about it. So the vet came out a week later, but it was actually a different vet, and he said it wouldn't be a month. She is going to be on box rest for 9 months, and we just could not believe it. So over, I think it was around 7 months, because we then moved Mittens. Mittens was being hand grazed and we basically tried to get her out as much as possible. Then forwarding on 7 months, Mittens was making a progress and the vet said that she was now allowed to start going out in the field. And because she made that progress, she was all right to be travelled. So we decided to move yards and we moved her to where Danny and Dawn is now, and she went out in the field with Jules, which again you guys haven't met, and Danny and Dawn wasn't there at that time, so she had 2 months just out in the field. So the vet come out and told us that Mittens was fine, she had to have her legs scanned, etc., and he said that we could start bringing her back into work slowly, but we had to do 6 weeks of walk with her before we could build it up to trot, which was again 6 weeks. So I started to do 6 weeks of walk, and I actually got Danny while Mittens was on box rest. And just as I started to do the 6 weeks of Mittens, Danny's owner, because I only had him on loan, took Dan back. So my main focus was just getting Mittens back on track because I was just going to have her basically. Then 6 weeks went on and we bought Danny, which we didn't expect, but I continued riding Mittens. We were then building her up to 6 weeks of trot. And then when it got on to me being cantered, I just stopped riding Mittens because that's when my focus just went all on Dan, because we was in the summer, it was when I was competing him and doing lots of fun things with him. So Mitz just went back out in the field basically and wasn't ridden. But then my friend Maisie, who you guys will know from badminton and I think 2 beach vlogs, she used to ride Mittens and she would take her out. Because Maisie is actually older than me, so I was in year 9 when I started riding Mittens when she was getting back into work, and Maisie was in her last year of school. By the time I built Mittens up to trotting, Maisie had finished school, so she had the whole summer off, so she would come up and take Mittens out for a hack just every now and again, although I think she's done it for most weeks, I can't really remember, but Maisie would ride her, and then on the odd occasion I would ride Mittens. Either Maze would bring Murph up, which is her horse, and I would ride Mittens, or I would ride Danny and Maisie would ride Mittens, but I would take her out for a ride every now and again. Now we are fast forwarding on a fair few months, it takes us to 2020. I was at the bigger end of Mittens, and Mittens absolutely loves her work, especially going on hacks. That is literally her favourite thing ever. So we wanted somebody to loan her, preferably from home, just so that we could keep an eye on her really. And I found this girl, she was very lightweight rider, and we thought this is going to be perfect. She was like 2 years older than me, so I was like, this is going to be amazing. So she come up and started riding Mittens, and it just didn't work very well. Mittens would take the mick out of her. It really was not working out, and We felt that the girl wasn't that committed to Mittens, and Mittens deserved way more than that. So we stopped the loan agreement and we decided that she's just going to stay, and whenever I have friends round, they can ride her and we can go out for hacks together when I ride Dan. So that's what we've done for a few weeks / a few months. Then just before lockdown, we were like, Mittens does need to go out on loan, just have a bit of fun, you know, just going out on loads of hacks and go to the beach and stuff like that. So we saw this lady advertising, looking for a pony for their daughter who was only 9 on Facebook. Now this lady had one of our ponies when I was only little. She had her on loan for quite a while, so we knew how she looked after the ponies / knew her kind of thing. So we messaged her and said that we had Mittens, and they were really interested. So they come up, and the girl come up and rode Mittens, and we walked with her around the village because they come back from the ride and they absolutely loved her and said that they want her and they will come and pick her up. It was literally within a few days, which we didn't expect it to be quite that soon. Anyway, it got to the day when they were coming to pick Mittens up. Obviously, we was very sad. Me and my mum was both crying when she went, but we knew it would be the best thing for her so that she can get out and do things instead of just being stuck in the field watching Danny and I going out having fun. So we had some messages from the people that had Mittens sending us videos of Mittens going around over little cross poles and going around in the field, and they were taking her out on hacks and everything like this. At this time obviously was in lockdown, so Mittens couldn't go out and about, so it was just the stuff that they was doing at home with her. And then last year, which brings us to 2021, we had a message from the lady to say that they were moving to Scotland and they would like to take Mittens, and we was like, no, that is not happening. When you go to Scotland, we will be having Mittens back. But they wasn't 100% sure when they was going to Scotland. They didn't know whether it'd be like a few weeks, 6 months, another year. They wasn't sure. They just wanted to give us the heads up, which is obviously something that we really appreciated, so that we knew that at some point Mittens would be coming home, which is completely fine, obviously. So we was basically waiting for that message to say Mittens is gonna be coming home, and then we spoke to her around February early this year, just asking how everything's going with Mittens, and they were like, yeah, it's going really well, so obviously that's amazing. So now we move on to September this year, and this is basically when it starts to go downhill. I feel like this is so long-winded to get to the bad news, guys. But anyway, I started college and I met this girl and we started speaking, obviously, and she was talking about that she rides this lady's horses literally just up the road from Danny. And obviously that was amazing because I met a friend that was horsey. Anyway, she was talking about her cousins. Now, her cousins are the people that had Mittens on loan. So I was like, oh my god, I know them. They've got my pony on loan, Mittens. And she was like, oh yeah, I know Mittens. She's lovely. I used to ride her. And I was like, yeah. She was like, they no longer have Mittens anymore. And I was like, what? And she was like, yeah, they haven't had her for ages. And I was like, well, where is she? And she's like, I'm not sure where she's gone, but I know that they haven't had her for ages. Well, I was like, well, that isn't right. She should be still with them. We only spoke to them like not long before. So the minute I got out of college, I told my mum, and my mum messaged this lady. And it was taking us ages to get a response from her, even though she read our messages and she wasn't telling us where Mittens was located. And obviously we was getting really worried where Mittens was and things. I was actually really suspicious about what was going on. I thought there wasn't something quite right, just by the way that they was acting and how they was going around things. We eventually found where Mittens was, which did take us ages, and we went to go and see Mittens, and Mittens was not good. She was out in the field, and we were speaking to the lady. So basically, the lady that Mittens was meant to be out on loan with, who they got her in 2020, has reloaned her out to another lady, which is they're not far from each other, but still it's not something you do, especially when a pony's on loan without us knowing. So I called Mittens over and me and my mum was like, oh my god, what has happened to her? Mittens could hardly walk. She literally looked awful. I burst into tears because I have never seen Mittens look like that. It was horrible. And the lady that now has her on loan looked up and said, oh, have you not heard? We was like, heard what? We got into a little accident, and we was like, what kind of accident? And she said, I was riding along a wall and me and Mittens fell off a wall. I mean, guys, God knows why you'd be riding on a wall. Do not ask me. Yeah, I don't know why she was riding on a wall, especially with a horse. All I can put it down to is maybe it was like a public footpath or something like that. It was like a side thing. I don't know, but yeah, I don't know why she was riding on a wall. I still can't believe it to this day. The lady said that Mittens only had a little scratch, but she needed stitches. Now, to me, that isn't a little scratch if your pony needs stitches, but anyway, obviously we were very upset about it and concerned about Mittens. So this accident happened to Mittens 8 weeks before we knew about it. So she was on box rest apparently, and when we went to see her, I think she'd been out in the field for about 2 weeks. So obviously, as you guys can probably imagine, me and my mum was speechless. Like, still today, I can't believe it happened, especially riding along a wall. So my mum was obviously very concerned, and she insisted that we had the vet out to check on her because Mittens shouldn't be out in a field how she was looking. So it took a week for the vet to come out because the girl who has Mittens only has a Thursday off, so she wanted the same vet that dealt with it on the day. So we waited a week, the vet come out and saw her basically, and then we just had to wait for a phone call from the vet to find out exactly what is actually wrong with her and what the vet thought. So the vet called us and obviously had her leg checked over, and she's also had her leg scanned because there was a little bit of swelling which the vet thought it was a bandage rub, but she thought that the first time, but then the vet come out a second time and she didn't think it was a bandage rub. She thought it was more than that. So that is when we had Mittens' leg scanned. There was also inflammation around the ligament. So the care has now been put in place and she will now be being scanned in 3 months' time. And yes, that's basically it. Obviously, as you're probably fully aware, me and my mum are absolutely devastated about what's happened to Mittens. We can only now ensure that she is put right. And there will be another update in a few months. Me and my mum are going to be going up and seeing her, making sure that she is okay, etc. So that is it, guys, about the bad news with Mitt. So I am obviously going to be updating you all on this, but it isn't going to be for another few months, probably around February time when we find out more. And that is now Mittens' story to date. Now, I am going to end this vlog. Sorry it wasn't very happy or anything like that. It's a little bit depressing. Also, very long-winded. I apologise, guys, but I thought I need to tell you guys the story from the beginning because you guys don't know her. So you've got a little bit of background before we sent her out on loan, and this is all we've got now. So I hope you have enjoyed it, although it's not the best to enjoy. But please make sure that you like and subscribe if you haven't already, and keep an eye out, guys, on my channel because there's going to be a lot more exciting vlogs than this. But anyway, I will see you all soon. Bye!